While many police officers take a sworn oath to be symbols of justice and lawfulness in society, some go astray and start to viciously abuse their powers, take advantage of civilians, and break the law in ways you would never believe. From crimes so strategic to murders that send the chills down your spine, here are 10 times police officers have not only broken the rules but face even harsher consequences for their sins to society. Join us today as we explore their heinous crimes, how they were sentenced, and their reactions to being put behind bars for decades. At number 1, Zachary Wester. Zachary was a famous in Jackson County Sheriff's deputy. He was accused by the courts for planting drugs in civilians' cars whenever there were traffic stops. Worse than anything else, civilians would be arrested and taken to jail for drug possession when it was not even their drugs. But then, an investigator realized things just didn't make sense. And soon, a prosecutor contacted the FDLV, realizing that all of his arrests were simply odd and showing the same pattern. They noticed that drugs and contraband were being purposely planted on different motorists. He then would create false police reports to make his actions look justified. And he even went as far as stealing money from their wallets and purses during the traffic stops. Fortunately for the victims, Zachary didn't realize his body cam was on the whole time, and in one case, he was caught purposely planting drugs in a woman's car, and another video showed him arresting an innocent man for simply having a syringe in his car. Subsequent to the fact that the syringe was empty with no drugs inside, in August of 2019, he was officially fired from the task force, and in July 2020, he was charged with racketeering, misconduct, fabricating evidence, false imprisonment, drug possession, and lying under the police code oath. And just like all other karma victims, he was found guilty of 19 of the 67 charges in May 2021 and sentenced to 12 years in prison for his unlawful actions. At number 2, we have Dennis Perkins, a police officer in Louisiana who was convicted of sexual crimes against a child. A 17-year-old victim to a teacher of what had been done to them, and soon the authorities were notified. He was arrested in 2017 and charged with 60 counts of child abuse. 3 smart children all testified against him and even gave evidence of pictures and text messages on their phones to help with the case. Perkins tried to say the allegations were part of a conspiracy against him and that the victims had been coached to lie, but neither the judge nor the jury bought his defense, and he was brutally sentenced to 100 years behind bars. And a cherry on top for the victims, without the possibility of parole. But then the story became really interesting. Soon after he was sentenced, his wife Cynthia Perkins was also taken into custody as she was accused of bribing one of the victims to retract their testimony that made him in court. The victim even said that she had tried different tactics to intimidate the witness and bring fear upon them. And although Cynthia Perkins pleaded guilty, the judge still had little sympathy for her, sentencing her to 41 long years behind bars, as it was important for an example to be set. At number 3, we have Kenneth Blue. Kenneth was another police officer who just went sober. He was convicted of murdering Jennifer Webb, a 32-year-old pregnant woman. It was reported that Kenneth was married and in no way did he want his wife to find out about his affair with Jennifer. But this is the part of the story that is just disturbing. He scheduled a meeting in the forest as he wanted to talk to her about different child support options. And within minutes of her arrival, reportedly he shot her to death. Luckily, a motorcyclist was traveling along the road and spotted her body from far away. The motorcyclist quickly called the police. When investigators arrived, they soon realized that there were multiple tire tracks and even a case of bullets left behind. And within months, they realized it was Kenneth Blue who had conducted the murder. When the case went to trial, the defense team proved to the judge that it was Blue that was the father of the child. In defense, Kenneth Blue's lawyers tried to say that at the time of the murder, Blue was not mentally able to conduct such a horrific crime, but the judge didn't buy it. He was sentenced to life behind bars for murder, and another cherry on top without the possibility of any parole, in hopes that the family of Jennifer Webb could mentally have some closure for his horrific actions on their daughter. At number 4, we have David Carrick. This police officer was just different though, and his evil story started when he started meeting multiple different women on Tinder. He was accused of abusing these women and using his police status as a way to show his control over them. Not only was he accused of sexual abuse, but it was also stated that he would lock them up in different small parts of his home as a way of emotionally abusing them. And in December of 2022, he pleaded guilty to assaulting almost 12 female victims over the years, all over London, England. The police task force even went as far as investigating 1,000 of the total 45,000 employees. Subsequently, at the end of the day, he was sentenced to 36 life sentences with the possibility of becoming eligible for parole on May 2052. The only thing that is clear is the fact that the woman that he assaulted must have been very angry when they testified against him in court for the judge to give such a harsh sentence. And lastly, we have Wayne Couzens, another police officer who was serving in the London Metropolitan Police Task Force. And just like David Carrick, not only did he abuse and assault women, but he was convicted of kidnapping and murdering an innocent woman by the name of Sarah Everard in March of 2021. Sarah was casually walking home from work when all of a sudden she was kidnapped by Wayne, as you can see in this video footage. Soon after, her body was found in the woods, and when the people of England found out, all hell broke loose as hundreds of thousands of people just became furious, especially innocent women all over the country. Wayne was soon arrested in October 2021 and immediately pled guilty because of the fact that there was so much evidence against him. Prosecutors even went as far as trying to show that he purposely abused his handcuffs and police ID to kidnap his victim. He was sentenced to 1 full life term behind bars, and just like stated before, the judge had no mercy for him. The judge stated that this incident is the perfect example of betraying the trust of innocent civilians in society and abusing your power towards others. And lastly, we have Michael Valva, a New York Police Department officer who was charged with the murder of his innocent 8-year-old son, Thomas Valva. When the court proceeding ended, he was sentenced to 40 years to life in prison. This case is a bit dodgy though. On October of 2020, all of a sudden, there was a call made to 911, with Michael Valva stating to the operator that his son stopped breathing. Within minutes, he was rushed to the hospital and the doctors declared him dead. However, when investigators did an autopsy, they stated that he had died because of hypothermia, and rather his death wasn't natural but a homicide. When they investigated even further, they realized that Thomas and his brother were forced to sleep in the garage because of a punishment by their mom and dad, and temperatures were almost 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Investigators then found out that Thomas basically froze to death and went even further to charge Michael's wife for murder and abuse, leading to a life sentence for each of them in the New York prison system. While most police officers love their jobs and vow to make the world a better place with pride and honorable work, Some choose to take advantage of their positions of power in society. Please comment below on what you think about these so-called officers and if they deserved their sentence. And if you want to see more videos just like this, please subscribe and tune in every week to be enlightened.